is how can we make these ideas differentiated as to what's already out there, and how can we have traction in the marketplace, and how can we capitalize on trends like you said? How can we be sort of gimmicky with the name of the business or the title to have some sort of what is that? The interest, honesty. That's interesting. Oh, like honesty. I like this Noble name. Very similar. If you know this brand, it's called Nobull. No bull. You know, like no bullshit. Excuse my language. But then also like noble, Noble, like somebody who is righteous and forthright. Somebody who's noble. So just the creative aspect alone, with the way in which you name your organization and the way in which you get your organization, get your project idea out into the marketplace, there is a slew of things you can do with minimal resources. And that is the essence of what that video hopefully conveyed. It's what it conveyed to me is the something called the guerrilla marketing tactics that can be embedded into everything we're doing. So we all have a dream. I have a dream. It's a little microcosm of touching our ability to find out if we can achieve a portion of that dream. And I know that sounds a little bit embellished and possibly idealistic. Truly, you're at the beginning phases of working on a project that could make a significant difference, not only in your career, it could make a significant difference for a company that you're currently working on. And you're with a professor or a teacher that is trying to ignite a flame inside of you to get you to do something phenomenal. And that company, Honesty, there were people just like you who were sitting around and saying, what can we do different? How can we approach this topic differently? I have a good idea. Why don't we put these little boxes out in these cities and put some hidden cameras up and see how many people will take our tea? And somebody said, let's do it. And they made it happen. And that could be you right now in those thoughts in your mind because they saw an opportunity that made sense. Okay, so recognizing opportunity. By the way, opportunity recognition, if you think about this concept, and I'm going to say entrepreneurship, but please don't hold me to this. Obviously, entrepreneurship is really, it's a lot more than what we're doing in this class, but it is a certain element to what we're doing in this class. And so if you're working for an organization, you can still act and think entrepreneurially. If you're leading a project, just because you're leading a project doesn't necessarily mean it's not a business in a sense. So what I mean by that is anybody can be an entrepreneur. And if you don't believe me, test me on it. Anybody who decides that they want to think and act entrepreneurially, and I believe that can be taught and use an entrepreneurial mindset, can be an entrepreneur. You can be an academic entrepreneur. You can be a political entrepreneur. You can be a business entrepreneur. You can be a family entrepreneur. You can be a social entrepreneur. There's so many ways that you can engage in a process of creating value by putting together a unique combination of resources to exploit an opportunity. I'm going to say that one more time and think about what Honest did. Their name, which we mentioned, the social trends within society that seem to have been being inflicted negatively in a sense because so many things were going on. Bernie Madoff was a big news story, that losing trust in society. They created value by leveraging those trends in people's minds by putting together a unique combination of resources. They had some tea bottles, they had some cameras, they had the carts, and they put it in different cities. That's a unique way to use what we have in a creative process to exploit an opportunity, having people more interested in doing things right. And oh, by the way, thinking of honesty while they're doing it. Brilliant way to exploit to think about opportunity. So one of the things I wanted to show you, which is on the and I may have showed you this in the last class, is the entrepreneurial process. What we're talking about tonight, and you can call this the entrepreneurship process. You can call this the delivering value at your work process. You can call this I need to change my life process. You can call this any kind of process where you're trying to build something new. Whenever you build something, things change. At first, you have to identify an opportunity. What is it? Okay, so let's think about yourself for a second. There are things in your life right now that you're thinking maybe I can be better at. Maybe I can do certain things better. Maybe I could wake up earlier and go to the gym. Maybe I can be a better friend. Maybe I can be a better family member, a better husband, a better father. So first you have to say, hey, there's an opportunity here for me to improve myself. Okay, that's great. Now you have to develop the business concept. You have to develop the way in which you're going to use your resources to exploit that opportunity. How am I going to be a better father? How am I going to be a better friend? How am I going to be a better coworker? You determine what you need, you acquire what you need, and you do it. You implement it, you launch it, and then you do everything you can to grow it. So it's what I'm trying to get you to understand is just because it says entrepreneurship, there's much more to it. Identify an opportunity, develop a business concept, access the needed resources, acquire the necessary resources, implement, manage, and harvest the venture. So the opportunity, what are we really talking about? Well, if you think about a corridor and you're engaging in this process now where you're taking an idea and you're beginning the process of walking down a corridor. And what does a corridor look like? What does a corridor have in it? So when you're walking down this hallway with your idea, there's a really, really strong chance or your opportunity that by the time you walk all the way down that hallway and you look into the different doors and you look into the different doors, the idea that you started off with is going to change. but it's all about entering that corridor, making sure you're walking down the corridor. Opportunity begets opportunity. I'll say it a different way. A lot of people think that the entrepreneur creates and shapes the venture. But what they don't understand, and hopefully this applies to you, is that the venture creates and shapes the entrepreneur. And it starts by looking into these different ways of walking down a corridor and looking for ways to exploit your opportunity. So let me give you an example. When I transitioned from being the president of a family business and working for a private equity firm for about 8 months, I decided to step away and just become a co-owner of a company. And in that process, I decided to launch a consulting company. When I first started launching the consulting company, I wanted to work with small family businesses. And in the process of working with small family businesses, I realized that I really didn't have a way to engage them. I didn't know exactly how to get information from them. So one of the things that I implemented was, if you're going to be a small business that wants to work with me, and this took time and practice, that one of the things that I need from you is I'm going to need trust up front, which means I'm going to need 3 years of your financials, your balance sheet, your cash flow statement, your income statement. Your balance sheet, your cash flow, and your income statement, 3 years worth. And some organizations would say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to share those, or I don't feel comfortable having, and I say, I understand, no problem. I don't want to work with you, meaning maybe I need to move on to another client. And one of the reasons why I decided to do that, because I failed over and over again, getting the client to trust me. And I needed this information to give them good advice on their business. Imagine you're consulting a business and you have no idea whether or not this business is hemorrhaging blood. It's a gross term. You're a doctor and your patient is hemorrhaging blood and you don't know because they don't tell you. They don't let you look inside and do a CAT scan or an MRI. You can't see the patient. It's the same thing with the business. So I failed, I failed, I failed. And then I had a rule that I implemented. And it changed my interactions with my customers. It changed my interactions with my clients. But I would have never learned that, which it panned out well, unless I stepped into the corridor and I started walking down and looking in this door and seeing how that works, seeing how this works. So this is what opportunity recognition looks like. It starts somewhere and it ends up somewhere different. So what is an opportunity? A favorable set of circumstances creating a need or opening for a new business concept. A situation where something can be improved at a profit. The existence of a pain that can be removed. Something is unsatisfactory, but you can have opportunity without something being wrong. So let me think about an example here. Let me take an attempt at this. Um, Here in our group one, whatever group you guys are, we've decided to exploit a particular opportunity in the market. And the things that we've noticed is that there's podcasters, famous podcasters speaking about this topic, and they're creating extreme social interest. In addition, we have found out that F1 Racing has signed a contract here in Miami until
Mhm.
2041, where they're going to be coming twice a year or 3 times a year, whatever. The facts don't matter. I'm trying to summarize what you said so that you can do something compelling. And in addition to that, there's a local store here that seems to be overly priced. And it looks like the market interest is there's such a plethora of this interest that there's an opportunity to create another store here in Miami doing whatever. I know that's not your business concept, but I'm trying to give the team and all of you guys an example. Okay, let me move on to a different group. You noticed a favorable set of circumstances. Now I want to ask this question. How about a pain that can be removed, something that's not satisfactory, something that's bothering you? This is another source of opportunity. And you can say this in your personal life, your professional life. What's bothering you? Anybody can answer that. Let's roll with that for a second. So, if traffic is a pain point, if we're thinking about opportunities to alleviate pain points, be creative for a second. Just brainstorm, spit a few things out. What are some ways that we can alleviate traffic concerns here in Miami? Okay, so some sort of driver clinic requirement that maybe we can get regulators to standardize this and we pitch it to DMVs. That's an awesome one. Okay, so you get the idea. How about flying cars? How about um, how about creating these new scooters? Remember these scooters? I mean, I know they're still sort of around, but these bird scooters, and I don't know how prominent they are, but in Dadeland, they had these pretty cool scooters for a while. That was something that possibly could alleviate some traffic, and it's possibly something that somebody would have chose to use as opposed to getting in their car. They wouldn't have minded 5 miles worth of scooter in the morning, and a lot of people bought these things as well. Bikes, rollerblades might come back in style. You get the idea. All in a matter of trying to alleviate this pain point of traffic. And think about that for a second. Think about working from home and this trend towards working from home. And if it's because people don't want to be in traffic, which we can all say amen to, there's a lot of things we can do to serve people that are working from home, and traffic can be a part of it. So that's another concept. So that was good. You're getting the idea. It could be a favorable set of circumstances, which you talked about with F1, or it could be a pain point like traffic that can create an opportunity. And a lot of times, the pain point really is something that you have experienced yourself. And if you've experienced that pain point, you can uniquely define it. That might help you create a business around that pain point. Okay. How about these opportunities? Labor shortage in fast food industry, unskilled services in general. You guys ever see this guy? His name's Mike Rowe. He's done the show Dirty Jobs. what he's doing, and I heard him interviewed the other day, he's actually it's a really cool concept. He's the show Dirty Jobs was extremely popular. I think it was on either the History Channel or I don't know, but extremely popular. Micro would go around and work with plumbers, septic tank people, landscapers, fishermen, some of these jobs that really keep our society going. And the people he calls them unsung heroes to the people that give him some credit. And he would so what he's doing now, which I think is really cool, is he's now going towards he's calling them like society heroes or something like that. And these are the people in society that are, let's just say you live in a community with a group of people, and one person in the community decided that they were going to visit a an elderly home twice a week. And they just did it and they provided this elderly home support and love and whatever. And they decided under the radar to like donate um, a flat iron grill. And then maybe they gave like $10,000 to some of the staff around there in tips because they had some extra money laying around. And they continued to do things for this elderly home that they wanted no credit for. But the people around them, their neighbors, knew what they were doing. And so what this show does is they try to discover people like that within these communities, these people that are really holding together the social fabric of this community. And so just like Dirty Jobs, where he was highlighting the unsung heroes that were working in dirty jobs in the trades, he's now going around and highlighting the people that are these society connectors that are doing such great things for society, but aren't really getting enough credit. It's called it like the Good Neighbor show or something like that. And what a great opportunity. I mean, thinking about the social trend of what we're watching online and the social cultural values that are changing, why wouldn't people want to watch those positive stories and to know who these people are and to celebrate them? What a great concept. So these are just some ideas of what's happening in our society, what's happening within trends right now that we can exploit. High employee turnover in fast food restaurants, lousy, inconsistent service. So this is the opportunity. And so if you got labor shortages, you got high employee turnover in fast food restaurants, and you have lousy, inconsistent service. These are all problems. Therefore, business concept. What are we going to do to solve these problems? Well, we're going to hire and train high school students, act as outsourced labor supplied to local Burger King franchises. If you can articulate the opportunity, the labor shortages, the high employee turnover, and the lousy, inconsistent service, when you move over to the business concept makes sense. If I read this business concept, well, we have a business to hire and train high school students, act as outsourced labor to supply local Burger King franchises, and that's all I said, and I didn't give you the opportunity, the business concept wouldn't make as much sense. So when we develop the business concept, the foundation of the business concept has to be based on the opportunity in the market. Here are just some things to consider. Doing something cheaper, quicker, higher quality, more reliability, incrementally better. Can anyone give me an example of that? Doing something cheaper, quicker, higher quality, or more reliably. China is exploiting an opportunity of doing something cheaper because they have somewhat slave labor in a sense to use their manufacturing workshops so that they can exploit the opportunity that a lot of people want these electric cars. That's a great example. Quicker as well. So I hear you, and maybe this because I'm more familiar with this concept. If you shop at Target, Target has these name brands. They're like creating and manufacturing their own products, and they're putting the Target label on them. So Amazon and Target and Walmart, what they're doing is they're spending so much time negotiating with suppliers, with vendors. And in this time negotiating suppliers and vendors, somebody said, hey, there might be an opportunity just to do this ourselves and just to own, essentially vertically integrate and just do it. And so that's a great example. And a lot of you, maybe you work for existing companies. This class would be an opportunity if your company is trying to penetrate a new market, or maybe they want to extend their brand or their services. Now would be the time to use that as an opportunity for this class. Okay, new capability, supply withdrawn, demand surge, new market segment or market holes. So I think about demand surge. What in the last couple of years has surged in demand? Perfect sense. So how about the applications that are essentially just network apps that just connect buyers and sellers? I think about this one, it's called Fiverr. Do you know this app Fiverr? So Fiverr connects artists, creators with people who need logos, people who need t-shirts, people who need designs. Fiverr, Fivver, I think is how you spell it. And services like Fiverr, like Uber would be an example, Airbnb would be an example. These things have surged in demand tremendously. How about ChatGPT, artificial intelligence, significant surge in demand. How about my wife uses, I think it's called Thrift or Shipped, because she shops at Target and she really has a relationship with her shopper. They talk and they text, and it's phenomenal. And they buy each other gifts and stuff like that. So okay, so now that you know that, say my wife and maybe other people and are buying stuff online and getting people to shop for them, is there, and we know that that's happening, is there an opportunity there? Maybe not to do the same thing, but to add to those services. Maybe the people that are shopping need support and infrastructure. Maybe they need mental health things. Maybe they need additional ways in which to find things in the grocery store quicker, um, maps of products in stores that you could put online for free, and then you could have a subscription and you could map out all of the grocery stores in the area, and you somehow can partner with the grocery stores where their distribution channel is feeding you information, and you're like the number one. So you get the idea of supporting the people who are shopping in the grocery stores and making it more efficient for them to pick up products for their customers so that they can make more money. Would they subscribe to that service? Hey, if it makes them better at their job, why not? Okay, multiple causes, more elderly with more income and more time on their hands. What is that? What opportunity comes to mind when you think of those things? A great example, and I'm sure we could probably fill in 15 things here. The buddy program. Maybe there's new board games. Maybe there's technology training for elderly. Maybe there's new homes that we can have built that aren't such the typical, what would it be called, like a 50 plus community or like a nursing home. Maybe we rebrand that concept and we make it cool and upbeat and lively. Dance lessons. We live in Miami. A place to live in Miami shouldn't be down and dreary. It should be upbeat, and you have a new concept that you want to put out there because guess what? There's more elderly, more income, and more time. They want options. One of the fun stories I tell is that when I was young, when I was a kid, we would go to if I needed some new shoes, I would go to something called a department store. Everybody know what department stores are? Has anybody been to a department store recently? To the department store, I was looking for two different kinds of shoes. I was either going to look for low tops or high tops. And they had the low tops in either black or white, and they had the high tops in black or white. So those were my options. High tops, low tops, black or white. Maybe there's some other fringe benefits, but that was it. And it was a department store where I had to go and get my sneakers. You can get so think about this for a second. Back in the day, department store, high top, low top, black, white, that's the deal. Now you can go to the mall to specifically an athletic shoe store. You can look at the ladies section of the athletic shoe store and you have 50 options. You probably have shoes for running, biking, cross training, whatever that means. You have, I heard there's a shoe actually for wind surfing. There's a specific shoe for this. Dancing shoes. If you go to Dick's Sporting Goods, they have a whole section on cleats and, uh, you know, every kind of sport you can imagine. So the point that I'm trying to make through this line of question is that there are a slew of different ways that you can differentiate yourself within the market because everybody wants their own unique kind of shoe. Nowadays, you can go online and you could purchase a shoe and customize it to your foot. Unbelievable. One of the interesting things that I've noticed too over the years is these things called Crocs. Does anybody know Crocs? Again, not to date myself again, but back in the day, Crocs were like one or two pairs of like, okay, you want Crocs or you don't want Crocs? Okay, I want Crocs. Okay, this is your selection. There's like three pairs. And now there are hundreds of different kinds of Crocs. And in addition to 100 different kinds of Crocs, you could find little decorations for your Crocs, like little customize your customized
Gibbets.
Crocs. So you get the idea. There's more opportunity for projects. There's more opportunities for vision. There's more opportunities for creativity. There's more amazing. So now you're doing how-to videos on YouTube based on the market niches. It's the point is we're living in a entrepreneurial age. It's a revolution of these creative things that are going out there. And now is your opportunity to look for those things and to start exploiting those opportunities. So what are we doing when we're looking for opportunities? There's deliberate or active search, meaning we're looking for opportunities. So this is you sometimes if you're in an entrepreneurship class or if you're in school, this is how you go about it. But a lot of times it's really a discovery process, which means as you pursue everyday life or business, you see an opportunity. You're walking past a retail store and you see that it's for lease, and you've always envisioned an amazing Cuban restaurant going in there. And now is the opportunity for you to do it. You make a call, and boom, you're in business. You're seeing the amount of dog poop that is being all over the sidewalk everywhere, and it's an opportunity for you to pursue a project with the county to advocate for a dog park for you and your neighbors because you don't want dog poop everywhere. This is just a part of your life, and that's an opportunity to make a change and to pursue a project. So usually it happens through a discovery process, not as much a deliberate search, unless you're looking for a job or you're looking for a business opportunity. You're actively, say you have a search fund and you're part of a private equity group or a venture capitalist group, and you're looking for things to invest in. That would be a deliberate or active search. Again, it just depends. Challenge existing assumptions. You know what? Shaving my face with a razor is really inefficient. I don't like it. Why would I do this every day with a razor? Why can't I just spray something on my face and it dissolves? Wouldn't that be a better way to shave my face? Of course it would. Challenge the way you do things. We're creatures of habit, and a lot of you have woke up this morning, you got out of bed, and you continued into your routine. You didn't even think about it. You just habitually go about your day, and this is how we survive. I mean, habits are a good thing. We want to create these processes and structures in our life so that we can live. We're not constantly bombarded by the multitude of opportunities in every second of every day. We've been hyper vigilant. But the other reality is some of those habits need to be challenged. And if during your day you're experiencing something that you say, why can't this be different? The most powerful question you could ask is, why not? What if I did it this way? Why can't I do it that way? These questions are powerful questions that I hope you can explore within your groups. It's not just, oh, here's our business idea. That's awesome. Make it better. Exploit those opportunities. Look for patterns or trends in markets, demographics, social behaviors, customer buying behavior, competitive practices, monitor changes in rules, laws, or regulations. Um, there's a there was a big trend, obviously, in electric car manufacturers when there was a eco-friendly carbon pollution constraints. Some of those have been alleviated, but obviously, being an electric car manufacturer, capitalizing on that trend is a good thing. A lot of people are moving towards electric cars. By the way, that's been around for a long time, electric cars, but the phenomenon has really occurred in the last 10 years with the branding of Tesla. Um, Conduct needs research, focus on problems, look for underutilized resources. How about this? If you're interested in figuring out problems, ask 10 of your friends to give you 3 of their pain points throughout the day. What are some things that annoy you besides traffic throughout the day? And just open-mindedly just write them down. Ask somebody else. What are 3 things that annoy you? What are 3 things that annoy you? You might see some correlation there. And when you see some correlation, tune in. Rule changes, demographic changes, underserved markets. This is an interesting one. Um, Thinking about the demographic of the elderly and underserved market, health conscious people might be underserved. We had a group, a team when I taught this class last semester that worked on water filtration. And a lot of times you have this fad. This guy's name's Andrew Huberman, who I enjoy and I watch, and he does podcasts. And in his podcast, he talks about things called PFAS. They're just it's water, it's chemicals in your water. I don't know too much about it, and things called microplastics. And if you can get these reverse osmosis systems and get water tests at your house, which I mean, you're spending hundreds of dollars so people can give you a free natural resource that comes from an aquifer if you're here in the Redlands, but they're selling these things because it's an underserved market. Not a lot of people are doing it. It's interesting. Social trends, new customers to the market, increasing usage rates, shortages. Okay, does anybody know what cocooning is as a social trend? They sort of hang out at home. They watch Netflix. They just I don't want to say they're depressed, but they're socially isolated. If somebody's socially isolated, what opportunities exist because of that? Yeah, I mean, the podcasting revolution has came because of that. A lot of people are listening to these clips, these short clips, maybe news stations. That's wonderful. But when you get long form podcasts, if the person's at home for an extended period of time and they're by themselves, they feel like they're a part of a conversation. How about this? The sound quality and the production quality of those podcasts, it makes a little bit more of a difference. So cocooning is the desire to stay at home and create a safe, comfortable personal space as a retreat from the outside world. Consumers invest more in home environments. That's another one. Anchoring, a return to traditional values as a way to find stability amid rapid change. Icon toppling, the rejection or skepticism of large institutions, authority figures, and cultural icons. Save Our Society, a collective desire to repair and improve the world. 99 Lives reflects the fast-paced, multitasking lifestyle of modern consumers who juggle many roles. And Vigilante Consumer, a consumer who takes activism into their own hands, calling out unethical business practices, demanding transparency, or promoting accountability through social media and buying power. So these were all social trends. It's a bit old, this particular slide deck, but you get the idea. If you know those social trends exist, in addition to those social trends, there are opportunities to go into business to serve these kinds of trends. Why would something not be a good opportunity? There's no market need. It, it turned out that there's a vacuum cleaner that everybody people who use a vacuum cleaner, you all know that. What is the vacuum cleaner? Does the vacuum cleaner make a noise? Vacuum cleaners. So think about this for a second. Millions of dollars went into product development and millions of dollars went into trying to create the most quiet vacuum cleaner you could possibly imagine. And they actually did it. They made a vacuum cleaner with such minimal decibels you could hardly hear it. What's the problem with that? If you're vacuuming your house and you don't even hear a sound, what's the problem with that if you're the vacuumer? The point that I'm trying to make there, which thank you for adding to that, is no matter how good you think something is, if people don't demand it, if there's no market need, there is no opportunity. I mean, it might be an opportunity, but it's not a good one. There is a difference between a good opportunity and not so good of an opportunity. And that difference doesn't lie in your discretion as the project member or business owner. It lies in the minds and the hearts of the consumer. Do they find value? That value that they find to be valuable, that's what they pay you. They'll pay you for your ability to create that value for them. And if they don't see value in that, they won't pay you. Customers aren't dissatisfied. They're perfectly happy with their gasoline cars. I'm not going to go buy an electric car, whatever that may be. If that was the case, that would be an example of people they're fine with what they have. It doesn't bother them. Customer loyalty very strong. So if you're trying to pull away people that are super loyal to, say, Apple computers, and you think that you're going to create an alternative to Apple computers, that brand loyalty has been built up in their minds and their hearts for years and years and years. It's going to be very difficult to try to make a technological device that is competing with, say, Apple. These are loyal to their existing brand. They're very loyal. Those are good things to know. Customer switching cost. Does anybody know what a switching cost is? Perfect example. So what they're doing, yes, it is that, is they're making it easier to switch to them. So if you're a business and you realize that there's high switching costs from somebody doing what they're doing now, and then they're going to come over to you, they're going to have to pay a price in order to switch. That's a switching cost. So let's think about an example with that. I really like landscaping. I really do. And I like my trees in my front yard. And they're fine. They don't need to be replaced. For me to dig up my trees and put new trees in is a lot of work. If a landscaper came over to my house and told me they wanted to give me a proposal to dig up trees and put new trees in, that proposal might sound wonderful. But maybe they should start with just selling me a few flowers or some orchids to hang on my trees. Because in order for me to take those old trees out, it costs a lot of money for me to switch to a new tree. I'll give you a better example. Um, so storage services. Let's say that you have a computer that's you store all of your stuff on the cloud, and say the cloud services through Apple. If you were to get rid of Apple and to start using Dropbox, you would have to take all of your files off of Google and put it onto Dropbox. That could take you a lot of time and energy and effort. There's a perceived cost to that. So unless you're going to make that as easy as can be, then it's going to be difficult for you to sell that. So there was a company called Palm, and Palm came out with something called the Palm Pilot when you first where people were organizing their calendar. And the reason why Palm Pilot was successful, because there were many other companies before them, was because they offered a plug into your computer, and for all of that information, your calendar to sync to your Palm. Previously, you had to manually input all the stuff yourself. As soon as you set up the syncing service, which decreased the switching cost of taking a calendar here and putting it here, they started selling these Palms because they were able to address the switching costs. So switching costs matter. Customers hard to reach, intense competition in a particular market, easy for people to enter after you. Remember, we're talking about bad opportunities, bad ideas, things that need to be addressed up front, or at least talked about up front. Customers are too demanding relative to what they pay. Windows not open, meaning the time frame to use that opportunity as an actual opportunity doesn't exist. That window has closed. The window that's closed is, let's say, video game consoles. That window is open with PlayStation and Nintendo Wii and Xbox and I guess Microsoft, Sony PlayStation. What's another one? Uh, there's Nintendo 64. Anyways, that
The
console
we.
creation, the Wii is a good one. That was Nintendo Wii. Yeah, so that opportunity to create a gaming console, that window is closed. Why? Because games are now on the cloud, they're on the computers, it's already done. So that would be an example of a window that's already been closed. It could be wrong, but think about that. More on the opportunity, the customer is the key. Who buys? It's so important to realize that if you were going to make a purchase to go to a laser tag this weekend, and you wanted to create a laser tag company, the person who's choosing whether or not we're going to go to laser tag would be the parents, the mom. The user would be the child. So you have to think, who's spending the money here? Well, the mom. Okay, so if you're not talking to the mom about what the mom needs to hear about price and safety and security and location, then as good as it is for the kids, as good as the kid wants it, the user, unless mom says yes, we have to take that into consideration. How do they buy? How much do they buy? Why do they buy? When do they buy? Where do they buy? Hopefully that got you thinking. Like, these are things, and let me try to be as clear as possible with this. Before you start the business, understanding what the problem is, the pain point, or the opportunity is needed. Because without that, what are you doing? You're just doing a hobby. You're having fun. You like to make paper flowers, and so you just think that making paper flowers would be a good idea. Well, does the market demand it? Is there a trend towards buying paper flowers? Is it socially responsible? These are kinds of questions you need to ask yourself before you decide to pursue something just because you're interested in it. Is the opportunity there? Is it a good opportunity? Is it a bad opportunity? And why? And can you articulate what that opportunity is? If you can do that, and you define the opportunity and you can create a business concept around it, then you're off to the races. The question is, does it need to be realistic? Does it need to be practical? Are we actually going to implement this thing? I would say yes. I think that this is something that maybe, hopefully, you guys think about doing. So if you were going to try to find a cure for cancer and that was going to be your project, I think that's a valid pursuit, but I would probably suggest you trying something else. So hopefully that answers your idea, but I would never say an idea is a bad idea. Why? Because of the corridor principle. You'd start off somewhere and you refine it over time. So if you want to do flying cars, then so be it. By the time you're done the class, you'll probably tailor that down to maybe a component on a flying car that's going to happen 5 years from now. Realistic it is, the more people will envision them potentially buying it, and the easier it will be to create a business concept around it. We don't want to operate from a fictional stance. So someone mentioned WeWork, which is a viable solution, but let's not be in the solution mindset right now. Just imagine this. Close your eyes. There's a lack of co-working space. That's tough. People are not connecting the way they used to at traditional coffee shops. Everyone is in their own little world. Zoom meetings with bosses are consuming all of our time. Therefore, boom, whatever that idea may be. How you pitch that idea and how you differentiate it from WeWorks is going to be really important. But at least now you understand that there's a problem and there may be a lack of a solution to that problem. And articulating that problem is very important. And we might do it differently than WeWorks. You might do it better than WeWorks, or you might just partner with WeWorks. Maybe you serve WeWorks. Maybe you have a business that supplements WeWorks. So you get the idea. When we trample out the problem, or we trample out the opportunity too much, we say, oh, that's never gonna, you're not gonna find a solution to that. Oh, that's McDonald's. Oh, let's talk about this. Already a solution to that. We stifle the creative process. So we don't want to do that quite yet. It was hard for me to follow the specifics of that, but I feel like I typed some things that I considered are not, does not exist, can't find. I mean, these kinds of things are great bullet points to write down. And again, I'm not being absent-minded. It is very important to know that if there is a service that fulfills this, then obviously it wouldn't be a good opportunity. But if for whatever reason you keep running into these walls of it is a pain point, it is a problem, there is a lack of whatever that may be, these are things to articulate. And the group, your group is meant to shoot them down. Your group is meant to say, actually, no, that does exist. That's not a pain. This isn't a problem. It's a bad opportunity. And here's why. And the more you can deal man that opportunity, meaning
Mhm,
you want to build it up as much as possible to say, hey, we can't find something out there that solves these problems, then now
mhm,
you're looking at something. So that's good. We are out of time, and I want to be strict with
mhm,
time, but I do want to end by saying that this is a process and it's also a skill that we can develop. Let me stop sharing this for a moment. So close this. Opportunity recognition is a competency that we build up. And the purpose of this class is not for me to um, get you to, let's just say, it's the beginning of you seeing the world differently from a lens of looking for opportunities everywhere you go. And one of those lenses is in your personal life, your personal routine. So start doing that. And the group and this idea is just an opportunity for you now, between now and Wednesday, hopefully, to try to see ways that you can articulate that opportunity. So thank you all for tonight. If